Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Plakata Nation. We're pumped up to be with you. I'm here joined by the one and only Cuss Rod, straight from the Bronx. What's up, primo? And my man, Jesus Ortiz, directamente desde Houston, Texas. You know, baseball writer extraordinaire, our insider, our baseball insider, getting all the secrets behind the scenes. Yeah, bringing the noise. All right, guys. Hey, we got a lot to talk about today. Pretty cool. Right up your alley, Jesus. We just saw Framber Valdez. Wow, what an outing again. He is absolutely on fire. And this is not like a hot streak. This is who he is, man. Like, he's absolutely nasty. Another great performance. 6 innings of shutout ball again and again. Tell me, man, you watch him, you know, on a consistent basis. I mean, you have a first row seat, and we're watching greatness.
I tell you what, La Grasa, Framber Valdez, to me, is one of the top 3-4 pitchers in the major leagues right now. He faced the NL Central leaders. He faced the NL East leaders and didn't give up a run. Did not give up a run in this last homestand. The Astros went 5-1 in the last homestand, swept the Phillies, and winning, pitching duels, and then won two of 3 against the Cubs. But what Framber Valdez did to close, he started the series with the homestand with a win, ended the homestand with a win. But he is on fire. Like, if you're going to have a great year, and he's had plenty of them, obviously, but you want to have a great walk year, right? If I'm the owner of the Astros, I lock him up. I give him a 5-year contract right now and say, don't test free agency. This guy knows how to win. When the Astros won the 2022 World Series, people did not give him enough credit. Jeremy Peña was the World Series MVP. But to me, Framber Valdez was just as important. He won Game 2 to even the series, and he closed out Game 6 to win the World Series. And this guy is a winner. He's won 8 consecutive decisions, which matches his longest winning streak of his career. He did that last year and also, like, it's the longest Astros winning streak since the guy named Justin Verlander won 9 in a row. And we know what that guy meant to be. He's a future Hall of Famer, right? But think about this, like, all the great pitchers in the Astros history, Framber Valdez is now, on Sunday, he became 10th on the all-time strikeout list for the Astros. The Astros have had some of the greatest strikeout pitchers in baseball history. Framber Valdez is an ace, and you combine him with Hunter Brown, and I really do believe that the Astros need to be considered the favorite to win the American League pennant this year. If you consider everything they've done without getting much this year at all so far from Yordan Alvarez, the best hitter on the team. But Carlos, I saw a great breakdown that you did on Cam Smith for MLB Network last week. But I'd like you to give me a breakdown on Framber Valdez.
Oh, man.
What is a slugger? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on Framber Valdez, the pitcher.
Primeramente, de Palenque, República Dominicana, señores, directamente. Comes from Palenque, Dominican Republic. That is the pride of Palenque. Just so well deserving of all the success that he is achieving, just because of how working he is. I want to hear a little bit more about what you guys have to say. But this is simple. You want a breakdown? This is so simple. All you have to do is just go ahead and get the Astros feed, right? And they have a center field camera that's like straight on, right? Because a lot of the center field cameras are a little bit towards right center field, right center field. And you cannot really appreciate how much that two-seamer moves because it kind of, the angle kind of takes away the effect, okay? But with the center field, straight on center field camera, Primo, Jesus, I'm telling you, that thing is moving. I mean, we have to look at the movement profile. If we go to Baseball Savant, you could do that yourself. Go ahead and do it because it's insane how much horizontal break that two-seamer has. So it's remember Mariano Rivera and that cutter? This is the equivalent for a left-handed hitter facing Valdez, the lefty Valdez. It's impossible to recognize how much that ball is going to move. Like where you last see it, it's no longer where it will end up. So in order for you to hit that two-seamer, you have to fake yourself out. You have to swing where you think the ball is going to end up, even though your eyes are telling you that a normal fastball, a normal two-seamer, it's going to break, 6 inches less. So you have to be like, I have to swing to miss it in order to hit it. How do you do that? How in the world do you do that? So it's you got to fake yourself out. It's like, okay, I know this ball cannot really end up here. Like the laws of physics, it shouldn't allow it. Those laws shouldn't allow this baseball to end up here, but it is ending up there. So I have to swing where I don't even think it's reasonable. That's why he's having so much success. And then you try to protect that. And then he pairs it up with that huge curveball, and you're done. Honestly, when Framber Valdez is this good, the only time he gets hit is when he makes like a mistake in sequencing and he throws it into a hitter's back. So it's almost happening by randomness. Like we swing and the ball finds the barrel. So it's almost like you're flipping a coin. So he could literally be one of those guys that if he were absolutely perfect, which no one is, but let's say he's absolutely perfect with sequencing and tunneling and all that, he would never give up a hard hit ball. That's how nasty his stuff is. Obviously, it's easier said than done. But in theory, he could be one of those guys who never gets hit hard. All right? So you wanted a breakdown? I mean, there it is.
That's a great breakdown. Think about that's a great breakdown. Think about this, okay? He leads the Astros with 13 quality starts, but since May 7th, he's made 10 starts. He's gone 8-0 in that time period. 1.72 ERA. 195 opponent's batting average, and the Astros are 10-0 in that time. That's what you want, right? Like I've covered a lot of pitchers where they tell you, I did my job. But with Framber, it's not about I did my job. It's about winning. And, against the Phillies and against the Cubs, especially against the Phillies, like he had a lot of traffic, either errors or walks, like 2 rare errors and then walks. But he induces ground balls and gets those double plays and gets out of it. And he's
Rod. Rod, you're sitting there from a fan's perspective, and I mean, what do you see?
I'm in awe by him because he's one of these guys that I almost feel like as a non-Houston Astros fan from outside of Houston, I feel like we take a guy like Framber Valdez for granted. He's so good. He's so dominant. And you hear these numbers that Jesus is throwing at us. These are throwback numbers. These are like Maddox type things. You know what I mean? This is like from old school Atlanta Braves type numbers, where you got that type of quiet domination. And you look at the guys who we consider the favorites for the Cy Young this year. You got Schoolbull, you have Max Fried, you have to put Framber Valdez in there. He's that good. And then you know what? Even better than this. This is the I like talking business and stuff. He's doing it at the right time. It's a career. It's a contract year for him, and he's having what could be his greatest season ever. And like that's the one thing with baseball. A left-handed pitcher, those guys command big bucks. He is doing what he needs to for his family and for his future. He's about to make generational wealth this offseason because the teams will line up and they will pay him. The Astros better get ready to loosen up that wallet and get ready to pay big money because every start this guy's making is just that value's going up, 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 and up. I'm in awe by Framber Valdez. He is that quiet monster that is in the background that is just inevitable and unstoppable.
And think about this, man. He did not sign until he was 21 years old.
This story is unbelievable. Jesus, please enlighten us.
There's a book there, man. Like, this is a guy who was pretty much just passed up. Like, nobody wanted him. 21 years old, he signs. And then he just got to work. I think he got like $10,000, like nothing in the grand scope of things. But he has deep faith, deep faith. He's built a couple of churches back home. There is a great book there on Framber Valdez. I am biased. I will tell you right now, like, no athlete in the 4 years Arskina has existed has been better for Arskina than Framber Valdez. He wrote a Father's Day column for us a couple years ago, which ran in English and Spanish. The only Spanish thing we've ever run. His access has been great. The 2022 World Series, one of his dearest friends, Doris, who used to be the Astros education coordinator, called me and said, "Hey, Jesus, come sit next to Framber Valdez's family. His dad's watching him in the major leagues for the first time ever. Game 2 of the World Series." And I sat there. So that sort of access. So I'm biased. I love what Framber represents for the city of Houston, for the Dominican Republic, for Latinos. He's the dutiful son who has taken care of his mom, who's essentially raised them as a single mom. And it was just so neat to be there in Game 2 of the World Series, listening to the dad talk about, yes, I left the family and she raised them. She did all the work. But together, like, I'm taking pictures of all three of them after the World Series. So we've been able to see his greatness up close. So I love what he represents. I think the Astros should definitely try to keep him, but I also know that if he stays healthy, the Astros aren't going to afford him, and that's a good thing for him, right? The generational wealth. You want these guys to protect themselves. But I really do think that if you think about faith, and I know you two are big on faith, the guy's built 2 churches. He throws big festivals, and what I really love when I got invited by Doris to his birthday party in after the 2022 World Series. Dude had mariachi at the World Series, and a lot of Mexicans don't realize, a lot of Latinos don't realize just how much Mexican culture is appreciated in the Dominican Republic. How there's a part of the Dominican, right? Like, they're like on caballos and they love mariachi. And I'm like, all right, man, if I wasn't sold already on Framber Valdez, the dude had mariachis at his house.
Yeah, come on. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
No,
and I'll tell you,
he is Jesus, those guys. He's one of those guys that I think as fans get to know him, and this is why these conversations need to be had. He's just one of those guys that are very easy to it's easy to pull for them. You know what I'm saying? You always you want him to do well. And of course you're like, oh, of course, Carlos, look at his ERA. He's a great pitcher. It's like, no. I'm talking about the person behind the talent, like the man, right? These guys he is one of those guys that you want him to succeed because he deserves it as a person. You know what I mean? And of course it's unbelievable when he takes the ball and it's fun to watch, but he is just a good man. And good things happen to good people. We have to believe that. We don't ever want to lose that, that way of thinking, man. Like, yes, you want the good guys to win. You know what I mean? And he is a good guy. So Man, I'm so pumped for Framber. That was awesome. Watching him today and just seeing the success that he's been having and how much he inspires. All of us really.
And let me tell you this story real quick. So on our esquina, you'll see a story on Daniel Palencia from Venezuela. And something I didn't know, because that guys watch each other, right? Venezolanos watch Venezolanos, Dominicans watch Dominicans. But Daniel Palencia saw inspiration in Framber Valdez because this guy did not sign with anybody until the A's signed him at 20 years old. You know how rare that is for a kid in Latin America. Pretty much once you're 18, 19,
I
people
would
think
say
you're
even
not.
earlier, Jesus, even earlier than that. We see stories of guys that are like, "Oh, I'm 17 years old. I haven't signed. I'm done. Unfortunately, and we know that here in the United States, my goodness, you're still in high school. You're still in
high school, yeah.
Senior in high school, maybe a junior, especially if
You might be going to college and playing ball in
exactly.
college. Your career ain't done.
Look at the College World Series. Like I'm thinking to myself, you know how many kids from DR could pitch in the College World Series, but unfortunately, maybe no opportunities were given to them, or in Venezuela or in Cuba or in Mexico, like just simply they missed out. Maybe they bloomed, they blossom later, they develop later, and they don't get an opportunity. So you're right, Jesus. That's very rare. At 17, some of these kids are folding it and saying, "I'm done."
Well, Daniel Palencia refused to give up, right? When he was 17, a Detroit Tigers scout told him that he would never pitch over 90 miles per hour. The dude's hit 102 already in the majors. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we all know that in this business, you cannot, and I hope it's not just baseball, in life. I tell my kids all the time. I mentioned this with Alex Caruso, who just won an NBA title with the Oklahoma City Thunder. That guy wasn't drafted out of college. He went to the G League. So you cannot let another person define your worth. And Daniel Palencia refused to let the cynics, the people who told him no, to define his worth. And sure enough, he just kept working at his craft. Finally gets a chance. By 2023, he's in the majors, even though he signed in 2020 and couldn't play at all because of the pandemic. So he started his pro career in 2021. By 2023, he's in the majors. Like, he exhausted his rookie eligibility in 2023. How about that for a guy who at 17 was told that he'd never throw above 90 miles per hour?
That's how quickly it happens. That's how quickly it happens if you turn the corner, man. Rod, I want you to talk a little bit about this, because you and I have had deep conversations as far as this is concerned.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We
talk about we talk about guys having to. You kind of have to go through things. You have to experience kind of like, I don't want to say loss, but you gotta experience adversity, Carlos. Like it's one of these things that builds you. It builds character. It builds like metal. You hear the term, iron sharpens iron, and stories like Daniel, stories like Framber Valdez, the great example that you just gave regarding Alex Caruso. So many stories of athletes from all across sports that they have to experience and go through these struggles where they have to, they don't get sent up from the minors straight to the pros. They do years, and then they come up and they find success. And sometimes the success isn't right away. It takes time. It takes time to adjust and adapt. But then when you get that success and you find it, it's a whole new world for that athlete. So when you hear stories like this, they're so inspirational to just even the common person, that they root for these players. They root for all these men and women in these collective sports, because yes, we can all identify. Like I'm a fan, like we say, you know what I mean? And Jesus is the writer. Carlos is a former pro athlete, but we can all kind of understand what it is to struggle at something. And then when you get that breakthrough and you make it, there is nothing better than that because
great.
it's almost like it's a sense of just fulfillment, Carlos.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like sports is it's a beautiful thing because sports they lend sports lends itself to stories like this one, right? And it could serve they serve as allegories. We're going to be talking about some literary devices. How about an allegory? Who that represents perhaps some idea, some principles, life principles that we could apply to our own lives. Like in sports, we can really see these stories happen, and we can apply them and learn from them. It's a little like microcosm when you look at sports, right? You're like, wow, look how that team came back. That team, we've seen Super Bowls won like that. We've seen, basketball championships where I remember looking at the Red Sox coming back against the Yankees, for example. That huge comeback. There's an idea behind that. It's like, hey, it's not over until it's over. Until there's breath in me, I can still fight and go after my dreams. And that's the beauty. Baseball, I see it all the time. There's so many different stories, and the ones that we've spoken about right here, we bring in those to the limelight. But there's more. One of the things that I saw today, for example, we're looking at Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge comes out and hits his 30th home run before the All-Star break. All right, that is the fourth time he does this. All right, and he tied prolific, legendary home run hitter Mark McGwire for most home runs, getting to 30 before the All-Star breaks. McGwire did it 4 times, and now Judge has done it 4 times. The next one is Ken Griffey, who did it 3 times. And Ohtani is, which is another story of very unlikely story, okay? Unbelievable story. If Ohtani hits one more before the All-Star break, then he ties Ken Griffey Jr. for 3 times getting to 30 home runs before the All-Star break. I need you to understand, like from a player's perspective, 30 home runs before the All-Star break, it's crazy, man. Why? Because we used to think of 30 home runs, or, I know when I played, 30 home runs was a season. You hit 30 home runs, you were good. You did great. I hit 30 home runs. I hit 30. Wow, what a great year. These guys have 30 home runs, or Judge, before the break, which right now you're looking at pretty much a halfway line of the season. Some teams have a little bit more games than others, but pretty much halfway. That means that there's another half to be played. So you could say that, oh, he's on pace to hit 60. It doesn't quite work that way, but yeah, in a sense, it's absolutely incredible. But this is what my point is. When he first came up to the big leagues, I remember this. I was at a desk at MLB Network, and everybody was talking about like, oh my God, Judge striking out so much. Maybe he won't hit in the big leagues. I don't think he can hit in the big leagues. I remember people saying that. I didn't. But they were saying that he couldn't hit in the big leagues. I wonder where those people are now. Because I wouldn't have even dared, because I know what I know what happens, man. When there's someone who's got that drive. They're like, oh, he'll never hit in the big leagues. Who dares to make that type of statement, And now we're celebrating him. This guy is one of the best hitters who's ever lived. Yes, you are the same guy who said that he couldn't hit in the big leagues because he had too much swing and miss. Now this guy is hitting for power, hitting for average, walking. He's the perfect Yankee. You know what I mean? Like, another great story, gentlemen.
I let me tell you with this Aaron Judge, and again, I'm in the microscope of Aaron Judge because he does play here. He plays for my favorite team. He is my favorite player right now, because how is he not? Like, he is, Carlos, you said it perfectly. He's the perfect Yankee. Look at him. He's literally larger than life, 6'7". He's like just a giant walking around. He stands out in every room he walks in. But then he's like just this gentleman. Like, he's just this like just gracious like person. Spends time signing autographs with kids. Just always very respectful. But when he's in that batter's box, he's a different animal altogether. Now, granted, we look at his numbers. His batting, I believe, is .357. He has 30 home runs. I believe it's 67 RBIs that he has right now. He slowed down, Carlos. He slowed down. He was in a slump, Carlos. He was in a freaking slump. And look at his numbers where they're at right now. And that's the thing with Aaron Judge. He is a guy that just and you know what? I heard that noise. I heard the same thing. Oh man, too much swing and miss. He's gonna be one of these guys who's gonna just hit like below 250 and crank 40 to 50 home runs. You heard all that, and then you see what he's doing. He was flirting with 400 at the beginning of the year. Like, that's insane. He was hitting at a ridiculous clip, and he still is. You know what I mean? Because all he just reminded us is, oh yeah, I'm Aaron Judge. I'm human. I'm allowed to struggle. Superman struggles when kryptonite is around or when there's something around. And look at what he is. This guy is a leader. And again, I'm going to throw it back to Framber Valdez, Jesus. It's like we kind of take Aaron Judge for granted. He might be underrated with how good he is, considering he plays for the New York Yankees. That magnifying glass on Aaron Judge is so much, but yet the guy shows up, he plays, he's a gentleman, he is just the quintessential baseball player, man. He is awesome.
Jesus, before you even go, I have to say, because I know that I threw out their perfect Yankee. You know that I can only say that about very few players. Like, I can go back in history, because what the Yankees represent, right? The winningest franchise in the history of sports, arguably. I don't know if there's any other.
They are,
right? Like, I don't know if there's any other. I'm looking at the fact that what they stand for, like excellence, man, in the most important city in the world, right? Biggest stage. Okay. Perfect Yankee. Lou Gehrig. Okay. Roger Maris, maybe. Derek Jeter. Perfect Yankee, man. Aaron Judge.
DiMaggio.
Aaron Judge.
DiMaggio.
DiMaggio. Think about the perfect Yankees. Aaron Judge is a perfect Yankee. In the history of the Yankees, there haven't been many perfect Yankees. He is a perfect Yankees. It's like the biggest compliment I can give a Yankee is to call him the perfect Yankee, because we know what Yankees represent. It's excellence. Okay, excellence. That's it.
Well, the only thing that I will say, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate here and kind of poke at our boy Cuz Rod. The only reason he wouldn't be considered the perfect Yankee is because his ring closet is empty.
Oof.
And the Yankees judge their heroes by championships. We didn't mention Yogi Berra as a perfect Yankee because he had all those those famous lines that had people laughing, but
they were awesome.
Both hands were full of World Series rings, right?
Yeah.
Like
10 rings. 10 ring, Carlo. 10 rings.
Unbelievable.
So he's missing some World Series bling, and he's probably had that denied, as everybody knows, by the perfect Astro, Jose Altuve. And that's why we have to appreciate what we're seeing here, right? The chance to see Aaron Judge, the chance to see Jose Altuve in our lifetimes, and not only see him, but have a close front row seat at this excellence. And I think of, when I saw, going back to Framber, when I saw that list, I'm like, dude, that's an impressive list of Astros. And the Astros don't have the history of the Yankees. We were talking about two World Series championship rings and 5 appearances. But, what Aaron Judge has done, he is the most important player in the most important city for the most important organization in Major League Baseball. And, some might argue the Dodgers, but I grew up in LA. I worked in LA. I worked in New York. There's a reason they say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Yeah. There's just a different temperature, and I'm not talking about the weather.
No, and you said it perfectly, Jesus. And I'll end it with this. Um, Aaron Judge, like there's a really famous broadcaster here named Alan Hahn who does the Knicks games on MSG Network, and he always uses this allegory for the Knicks that the Knicks have the heaviest jersey. I can almost say the same thing about the Yankees. Wearing that Yankee jersey is so heavy, but then wearing it, Carlos, and you know what? I'm gonna add another thing to what you said about the perfect Yankee. He's also the Yankee captain. So that's another title that he has on top of being Aaron Judge. He's the captain of the Yankees. You know, title held by Derek Jeter, title held by the great Don Mattingly, who was also the perfect Yankee as well. Like that's a lineage that's there. And Aaron Judge just again he shows up to work. And you know what? I can't be mad at what Jesus said about the ring situation. All of us Yankee fans, all we want is to win. We want to win a championship. That's the one thing we want. We haven't won since 2009. We went to the World Series last year. Fortunately, we got embarrassed. Aaron Judge didn't have his best moments there. But again, Carlos, I like to believe in what we were talking about earlier, resilience. You have to go through things. It's a story, it's like a movie. Sometimes, things don't go your way. Sometimes you drop the ball. But guess what? When that opportunity comes and you can make the big play, hit the big hit, be the leader that fans and your team expect you to be, when you do win that ring, it's going to be the sweetest and best experience ever,
And
Carlos.
let's
So
let's move
I
forward.
really hope that happens, man.
Yeah, let's do that. Like right now, this is a perfect segue because we have a quote of the day, and it comes courtesy of Cuss Rudd himself, who pretty much edited something you've heard before or made it his own, and I think is perfect for this episode as the quote of the day. And let's go ahead and apply it to our lives, please. Primo, you have the floor.
So we were talking about this pre-recording and talk about it now. When it comes to Aaron Judge, when it comes to Framber Valdez, when it comes to Daniel Palencia, when it comes to just anyone going through a certain situation where you want to be better, well, guess what? You have to experience the pain before you experience the gain. That is crucial. That is what makes you who you are. That's what will lead you to success. You have to experience the pain. You have to. Aaron Judge, you can't sit here and tell me, Jesus and Carlos, that Aaron Judge during the offseason didn't go back to that game when he dropped that ball. Or hear all the Dodgers talk about the Yankees the way they were talking about it. He can tell us, oh no, you know what? Yeah, I didn't do that, da 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 da. He did. He did. And you can't sit here and tell me that everything that's been going on this season, the way he's played, the way this is most likely his best season he's had so far. This isn't almost like a revenge tale for that. And all Aaron Judge needs is to have that moment again. And he could have that moment again. But again, pain leads you to those gains, man. So that's the quote of the day, man. That's the quote of the day,
I
Carlos and Jesus.
absolutely love that. And I'll follow up with something I read that just pretty much, I think it's a pretty good example of what you're talking about. Just reading about this businessman who said that if he were to tell you, listen, you have to receive 30 no's before you actually get to your yes, right? So you have to get rejected 30 times. If that's the deal, you need to get rejected 30 times. And on that 31st try, you make it, right? Of course, we don't have a crystal ball, but I think all of us would actually run to try and to continue to go forward and continue to fail and continue to go. And every single time you fail, you would think, I'm closer to my goal. I'm closer to succeeding. Every single time you fail, you're closer to achieving your goal. So that brings that word back again, resilience, the concept for us to continue to fight all the way to the end and keep on turning the corner. Because right around the corner, we may find success. But if we don't turn, we will never find out. So, for everyone listening right now, and even, for ourselves, we try to apply that to our lives, but let's all do it. Let's continue to press forward and let's continue to go after our dreams. Go ahead and start that business. You know what? Go ahead and apply again. Go ahead and go after that job again. Do not be discouraged because, maybe the very next turn is the one that leads you to success.
I love it, guys. I'm just gonna leave the floor to you guys. That's great. That's perfect ending to this wonderful podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you everyone for joining us today. Cause Rod, that was absolute gold,
Thank
man.
you.
Absolute
Thank you.
gold.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you. It's you know, it's one of these things where I'm around you guys. You guys inspire me, and when I mean you guys, I mean you Carlos and you Jesus. Like you guys are inspirations to me because I know you two went through your personal struggles to get where you're at. Now, and I've gone through my personal struggles to get where I'm at now. I feel like it's a tale as old as time, as they say. We all have we're our own star to our own movie, and I hearing us talk about Framber Valdez and Daniel Palencia and obviously now Aaron Judge, it really hits home and it hits the heart when you know that the hard work that you put in leads you to the success that you are seeking.
This is absolutely perfect. Thank you, guys. That was awesome. A great way to end today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, Plakata! Today's episode of the Plakata Nation podcast was produced by the Aristina Podcast Network. Executive produced and edited by Ras Guevara. Additional engineering support and publishing by Francisco Castro. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen. It really helps us grow the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.